personally put up every single one of those.
What? Yesterday morning, Pierre sent me this video on Void Kong. We haven't even gotten into any Donkey Kong lore yet here on this channel, apart from that one video that we checked out from his channel about the Donkey Kong animated series, as well as, I guess, learning about Donkey Kong and his Punch-Out appearance. Just some really weird ways to get introduced to the character. But yeah, I don't know anything about Void Kong. I just know that when I added Pierre as a friend on his Nintendo Switch account, he had this as his profile picture. I think that was like the first time I ever saw this character, actually. But he did say that it would be a fun watch regardless, so I'm looking forward to this one. Now, I'm watching this early before it's released publicly on his channel, although by the time I get this done and edited, it might already be. It is a part of our partnership with the Designing 4 channel. So, if you guys haven't already, for whatever reason, please go and support Designing 4. Either a link to the channel will be at the top of the description, or if the video's already released, then it'll be a link to the video.
Making a new villain's kinda hard for a legacy series, ain't it? When you have a world that's so neatly established.
I mean, it's also the thing with fans have a certain expectation that they want to see their older favorite villains that they've enjoyed throughout the entirety of the series come back, you know, and do something new. But when you try to introduce somebody new into the mix, then they have to get compared directly towards those older villains. Like, it's really hard to think of a villain for Sonic that's going to be more iconic than Eggman, or a similar situation with Mario and Bowser. Like, sure, you can come up with other people, and there may be some games that feature them, but that's not really the first villain that people will think of.
With expectations from fans on how encounters should go and what makes a good bad guy in your world, it's tricky not to make any new element feel like an OC that you're dunking right in there and hoping people will like. Not only are you competing with the establishment of prior baddies and the opportunity cost of not having another encounter with Bowser or the Joker or Hannibal Lecter or whatever instead, furthering their character and
especially for a game company, it can be a pretty big risk as well. But if they don't take any risks, then there will never be innovation. So risk reward, it's hard to say.
Interactions or exploring new ones with new characters and new perspectives to challenge them, you're trying to introduce a whole new philosophy with what that bad guy represents. Hopefully, I mean, please don't just make the same villain twice. This is doubly true for video games that
I think that was from Mortal Kombat. We still haven't learned anything about Mortal Kombat yet here on the channel. But delving into fighting games, we'll eventually get there.
Lean into their gameplay, as not only are you fighting that character perspective, you're also creating an encounter that has to be suitably different from so many others of, alright, how does this game want me to hit this dude 3 times before I win? So many disposable villains exist within the world of games. Some of which may have some fans, but usually don't rise above the mark of a mixed reception. And fewer seem to crop up and stick around after their one-and-done appearances. The Donkey Kong franchise is no stranger to this, and has maybe the most pronounced case of it you'll find.
Really?
You've got one villain that a vast majority of the fan base loves.
I've seen those comments suggesting I check out King K. Rool. I will do so in time. I've been holding up because there is something that we might do here on the channel before then. But we'll see how things pan out. It's still kind of up in the air right now.
One guy who's never coming back due to being in a legal limbo, but is generally liked because he's the right combination of tough and stupid.
I have no idea who that guy is.
And then a bunch of one-offs whose fan reception ranges from, I think he's going for stoic? I mean, I didn't think about him at all until you brought him up, but he's fine? To, this is the most disappointing thing it could have been.
Don't know any of these guys.
What do you mean your lore only exists in the Japanese player's guide for your game?
What?
Establishing a new bad guy, especially in a series that's been dormant without its beloved main baddie for so long, is an uphill battle hardly worth fighting. But this guy? He seems like he's in good company, and is too annoying looking to let it take him down for long. Donkey Kong Bonanza's Void Kong takes the challenge of not being the villain we want and effectively toys with the game around him to create one thing. Not just a perfectly punchable baddie, but a satisfying one to watch tumble down from his literal high horse as deep into the earth as you can beat him. Let's dive down and see what this manic monkey's all about.
Yeah, I have no idea where this is going. What are we doing here? What's so good about Void Kong?
Some time ago, Void was a simple prospector monkey, one of many surface-dwelling simians looking to strike it big, but having little success. His mining company was in shambles until he discovered a shining, golden vein of riches beyond belief. A tendril of the legendary Bonandium
root. Wait, you're telling me that they're mining for bananas too in this universe? Is everything that's valuable just a banana? I guess I should have expected it. I haven't played Bonanza or seen any gameplay of it really outside of like some of the few streams that I was lurking in when Pierre was playing the game, but I guess there's still so much for us to learn about the Donkey Kong lore.
Not only was this charged with your daily source of potassium and incredibly valuable, not only did it make an excellent power supply for whatever reason, potassium is nuclear and whatnot, but it connected to a deeper legend. At the planet's core lay the heart of the Bonandium root, and the one who grabbed it would have their heart's true wish granted. Unlocked through the power of a voice pure and strong and exploitable by any, no matter how kind or rotten their heart was. Void was immediately possessed by avarice and greed, able to study this smallest vein to grow Void Co. into the world's most powerful mining operation. Developing new technologies through Bonandium, like the terrain warping all-mine remote, or the data gathering IntelliSense specs, in order to launch an expedition to the planet's core and take the Bonandium route for his own. Void partnered with a construction expert.
Well, I guess that's a great overview of his whole goal and aspirations. Some pretty interesting and funny lore bits here. But I can kind of start to see where the plot of Donkey Kong Bonanza is starting to lead to. A little bit.
And artisan, Grumpy Kong. And intelligence-gathering prodigy, Poppy Kong, to create a massive drilling machine, the Pay Dirt Pile Driver, along with an army of gadgets and minions in order to drill through the planet. From here, he waited to hear of the emergence of Bonandium gems across the world. And when news reached his oversized ears that the gems had appeared on Ingot Isle, he sprang into action, burying the mining town in rubble as he tunneled closer to the planet's core for the wish of infinite riches, tossing away every mining monkey or ape in his path.
That's a good laugh.
Now that's a neat little setup. A little bit of greed, perhaps a bit standard for a cartoon villain. But it's also the first villain setup Donkey Kong has gotten since 2007.
Wait, really? This feels pretty stock standard. Like a simple way to introduce a villain and their aspirations, their goals. What was his name again? It's been so long since we checked out the Kirby lore. But it kind of reminds me of that one guy who owned a company and was kind of like trying to take resources or whatever from Kirby's planet. I forget the exact details of that whole affair, but from the little bits that I do remember, it seemed pretty similar at least.
And if you're not counting K. Rool, it's the first time a villain who's opposed Donkey Kong has had a setup greater than, and then he showed up at the end of the game after taking the bananas or the island, since Mario.
Oh no!
What
In
the hell?
1982. And that ain't even the same DK. Void Kong is...
What in the world is going on with the Donkey Kong series? Considering how popular Donkey Kong was, I had assumed that there would be like a lot of really good lore here and a lot of iconic villains that I just wasn't aware of. At least that was my experience when I went to the Kirby lore, and so I had kind of had this expectation of things that I thought were pretty shallow were actually really deep. But I wonder why we chose to do this for Donkey Kong. Is it because we had presumed that nobody who wasn't a child would really enjoy DK, so we never put in too much thought on the villains? Because if that is the case, then that's really a shame.
Is loudly in the spotlight to take charge as a new age DK villain, and he's sure to never let you forget it. In every scene he's in, Void pushes past his compatriots, interrupting and upstaging them to let you know exactly what he's all about. Plundering the world for its resources and getting to the treasure deep inside the planet. Every layer of the Donkey Kong world he visits, he corrupts, summoning creatures from the Earth's crust to act as his minions, messing up the lives of the Bonanza Elders as he descends, terraforming the world to plaster massive monuments to himself all around.
Of course, every good villain has to have gigantic statues of their face plastered everywhere, because they just love themselves that much.
He even puts up propaganda posters that just say, "Bananas?
Mine."
And we learned that later, he personally put up every single one of those.
What? Okay. You know, this guy might not be too bad. I actually kind of like him. He's funny.
Because he's just that obsessed with getting his greed out there. But his most insidious inventions are his Terravoiders, machines that infect the ground and all living organisms within, entrapping them in an unbreakable prison. Voided terrain is one thing the player can't smash through, and it makes for a pretty nifty way to make sure that nobody can get their hands on any Bonandium if either it or they are completely immobilized. And let's toss mind control masks on top of it while we're at it. Why not?
Ah, lovely.
Might as well take the mightiest creatures we can find in the underground, like the Grand Harmonial and the Blusterwing, and use them to make banana...
Oh, I know about this guy. Why in the world did I check out that? That is my first video for the Donkey Kong lore. I don't know, but it was a stroke of genius. Almost on par with the getting into Sonic lore with the Princess Elise video. Now that was peak. But before I forget to talk about it, I definitely feel like a lot of the things that Void Kong has done is quite in line with what I think a villain who begins from his sort of origins would do. That is to say, somebody who's like, you know, just a regular mining monkey, I guess, who never really had much power or much money and fame to them. And the moment that they obtain something that gives all of this to them, then yeah, that sort of greed, that avarice that was kind of within them all this entire time, but they just never had the resources or the power to do so, to act upon it, come out in these childish-like ways to control others, to poster your face literally everywhere, and to take things from everybody that you can, without any real regard to anyone else's safety or their well-being. There's even the nice touch of, during cutscenes, him randomly cutting in during lines from other characters, because he just wants to hog the spotlight. He's never had it before. Everything that we've heard about him so far, and seen about him, at least, makes me think that, you know, this is a setup for a really fun villain.
Collection even easier. Void is a classic venture capitalist, exploiting the worlds he's discovering, draining them of resources, and literally pouring them into his giant machine so he can eventually make more money. It's through this process that he entraps Pauline, a talented young singer with that pure and strong voice he's looking for, transforming her into a marketable rock mascot who may be a little too free-spirited to control right now, but should be helpless enough to take advantage of and serve as his key to the big shiny root at the end. Unfortunately for him, he picked the exact wrong time to enact his plan, as one banana-lovin' and friend-making ape ended up in Ingot Isle at the same time.
Donkey Kong.
DK's been a character who's been the face of his franchise by default, almost. The rare days had him play second banana gameplay-wise to Diddy Kong before being kidnapped, kidnapped again, passed over for Little Buddy again in starring in a racing game, and acting as sort of the default in DK64.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. Diddy Kong was like more the main character than Donkey Kong. I guess Donkey Kong took the role of Princess Peach. What? That's not how I imagined it going at all, but that's hilarious.
From there, he's mostly been the vanilla character for whatever game he's playing. A suggestion of characterization for him a bit less important than how good his basic gameplay functionality is. His only real exceptions in being more than the default, being a weird level of cartoony hyper-violence in Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, and acting as a supportive boss monster who enabled his team to be their best and crushed enemy formations in Mario plus Rabbids Donkey Kong Adventure. After such a long hiatus and a history of not using the character for anything definitive other than funny cartoon monkey very strong, Bonanza would
Why? Why do we just relegate such a character to just being funny cartoon monkey? That makes no damn sense if all of our other IPs are going to be expanded upon. Hell, even frigging Plumber Man who jumps on Goombas got expanded upon so much in the Mario RPGs. How come we've not had anything like that for Donkey Kong? That's insane to me. At least that's what it sounds like so far. I might be wrong. You guys can feel free to correct me in the comments. I'm coming at this from a perspective of somebody who knows nothing about this guy. Hell, there are plenty of you guys who made fun of me for not even knowing about Rare's existence. I don't know, man. I wasn't born in time to be playing those games. Or more accurately, I didn't really play games at all until much later on in my life. But yeah, to go from stuff like Mario and Kirby to this is kind of a shocker.
capitalize on this by making funny cartoon monkey even stronger.
Yeah.
Everything the light touches is Donkey Kong's to tear off, bust through, ride on, and use as a weapon. His overwhelming power terraforming the world around him as he looks for sweet, edible riches. DK is a one-man mining operation, the natural world serving as a perfect place for treasure hunting. Scrooge McDuck if he enjoyed eating his gold because the potassium feels good.
Look at that luster. What a beauty.
DK is a freeing force of destruction. But he's also an incredibly friendly one. Donkey Kong will wreck the world around him without a second thought and punch enemies into next week. But every time he's around a peaceful NPC, he'll give him a little high five and thumbs up instead.
Hey.
He helps out those in need, he supports local businesses, he tips service
Supports
industry
local
workers.
businesses.
Just a stand-up guy. And when he encounters this odd rock that fell from the sky and has consciousness for some reason, after some mild confusion, he's very quick to befriend it. Singing, calming it down, letting him ride on his back, DK lets the little fella get comfortable, gain confidence, have fun despite being terrified and lost, and has it open up. Literally as the power of music frees Pauline from her crystalline prison when they sing together. Throughout the game,
My pet rock became a girl? How can I return it? No! Go back! But okay. Well, I don't know, maybe some people want more characterization for the guy, or maybe it's the intended purpose of the character to just be that, to be something simple that people can enjoy and kind of get behind, to be a positive force, and be a very strong force at that. Perhaps it's just my kind of like lore nerd brain trying to seek out something, seeing missed opportunity at a place where it doesn't really need to be. But yeah, no, this is something I'm very curious to know about from you guys who are DK fans. Like, how does it go? How do you wish that it went? Or is DK just perfect as he is? I still think, though, that most people would probably want more games for DK. Like, use the character more in good ways and characterize him nicely. I feel like that's a pretty safe bet.
As DK busts through things and help people, Pauline grows more confident. Her animations changing when they take a nap together, her actions starting to mimic DK's own, her confidence shooting up every time she gets the opportunity to sing through DK's encouragement. Donkey Kong is a soothing force who cares about helping those around him, and doesn't intentionally make them grow, but they incidentally do by his example and how good of a fella he is. Because he loves bananas a whole lot. But he likes being your friend just a tiny bit more. And with all of that now existing, Void Kong suddenly has a ton to work off of as a foil. If Donkey Kong is the world's most positive force of destruction, Void is the terror
DK
of
subscribe to Designing for?
construction. For every friend that Donkey Kong makes, Void will plow through worlds, build on them, and make them less than what they were before, extorting all of the bananas he can out of locals before shoving off for the sake of progress.
Wait.
And that doesn't...
What was that? What was that? But who is that man on the bottom left? I don't know him.
And that doesn't just extend to these idiots underground. Void is noted to be incredibly micromanaging of his employees, the likes of Grumpy and Poppy Kong undermined at every opportunity. They don't even like the guy, with Grumpy more focused on creating marbled marvels of engineering to beat Donkey Kong. It's some nice artwork on the side.
Oh, this is beautiful.
And Poppy outright quitting fighting you because this is just her 9 to 5. It's got good earnings potential, but she's not putting in any overtime. They're actually both...
You know, I respect that. It's your day job, to fight against me, but outside of that, we're just chill. But I see what Peter's talking about here, and it's always really cool to see backstories and motivations, like the basis behind the characters involved in the story, also get combined with the game's mechanics, especially in regards to Donkey Kong being, that destructive force for good versus Void Kong being that destructive force for profit, for his own gain that hurts everybody else around him. And this being the game where you can destroy so much of the terrain, and seeing that during the reveal trailer at least was really cool. There are other games out there that have these terrain and terraforming stuff, but I think this is probably the first time Donkey Kong has introduced something like this, at least from what I can recall, what little I know of the series. It's always nice to see these feedback loops within your game, with the gameplay systems and the narrative and the characters all just kind of blending into each other, making for a perfect whole.
Quite cordial with DK after being beaten by the big ape, awkwardly accepting high fives from the guy when he was beating him down before. And after a second round with the Bruiser, both of them quit their jobs to leave Void all alone. Cause you're a pretty cool guy who values relationships, and Void couldn't care less about the journey and the people he steps on. The destination is what matters, baby.
Void needs to learn team management skills. Obviously, he's kind of thrust into this position of power, so it makes a whole lot of sense why he doesn't know how to handle this, or how to be a charismatic person to his underlings, That's what I respected about Bowser, actually. I didn't expect that side to him, but when we learned more about him and the way that he treats his underlings, the way that his underlings believe in him, he became so much more than just, big, angry, dinosaur lizard dude that you jump on at the end of the game.
All of this comes through in Void's boss encounters beautifully. The Primate President is encountered halfway through the game for a scrap. his pay dirt pile driver requiring a lot more bananas to fuel due to his impatience in activating the thing. And when you're ready to rumble, Void doesn't have time for that, fleeing to one of the previous layers in the underground in order to loot some leftover banandium from its inhabitants. DK has to chase Void back up through multiple floors in an incredibly engaging battle. Void terraforming the terrain that DK's grown accustomed to into mud, ice, and pillars of stone in order to throw him off. Donkey Kong's mastery and destruction of land and cleanness of movement have been his greatest strengths as a platforming character here. And Void is able to constantly limit that with a wall of brambles here, ice physics there, a random carpet of lava everywhere. Chase theme bosses have appeared in 3D platformers before, even taking place in prior levels as a test of the player's skill. And usually they're kinda bad.
Mario Sunshine?
But by tying in his terrain alteration to his moveset and using it to combat DK's most obvious forms of momentum, Void Kong is able to play to Bonanza's strengths by taking away that freedom of movement, and contrast DK as this opportunistic egotist who's not destroying the world around him, but spoiling it rotten for everyone else. When Donkey Kong finally traps Void at the top of his drilling machine, the malicious Marmoset strikes back by hiding behind an invincible shield, voiding out the terrain to limit DK's options, and destroying the game's frame rate in hopes of smothering Donkey Kong in a gloomy doom.
Now that is the ultimate move for any villainous force. It's like, in the current version of Helldivers 2, at least, when I was playing it with the boys, we did some automaton missions, and the automatons had come up with a way to freeze our PCs and cause the game to crash multiple times in order to stop us from spreading democracy. And there's also other video game bosses like Orochi from King of Fighters, I believe, KOF 97, 98, something like that, where he shows up and one of his moves is literally an epilepsy warning. Like, a lot of supers back then kind of were, but that one just destroys your eyes, even if you don't have any sort of condition. Very memorable. I don't know if that's a good thing, though, in this particular aspect.
And when the player manages to bust all of that open and approach the cowardly CEO, yeah, the rest of his health bar doesn't actually matter. After chasing him down for so long, you just get to wail on him in one uninterrupted sequence of putting a bully in his place. And it is wonderful. But I mean, he still stole all the bananas, and his drill gets to pierce the earth even further. All you did was slow him down. Void continues his tunnel-minded charge to the planet's core. Hint screens noting that he's running out of employees and has to rely more and more on random dudes he's brainwashing before he commits his greatest crime. In order to appease a group of rock people shaped like lions who live in a fast food-themed amusement park/factory, shut up, it makes sense.
How did we come up with this? What are we on right now?
Donkey Kong constructs a giant, hundreds of meters tall burger.
Is that a hamburger?
And Void instantly ruins it because it's in his way, voiding out the top. It gets fixed rather quickly, but I personally hate him for that, and you should too. But through all of his struggle, with nothing but his haste, Void eventually reaches to the end of the planet's forbidden lair.
You don't touch the hamburger, man.
Just moments away from the planet's core, and with what he believes to be the Bonandium root laying dormant in its bedrock. Unable to stop you even with the underground's most legendary creatures and whatever muckety-muck is. Void curses his inept staff and fires every last one of them, not knowing that all of them have already quit, but notices you coming and lets you through to the Bonandium root.
That's actually hilarious. Like, I quit. Well, then I fire you. It's like a way to be the last word said during a conversation. It's so pathetic, but it's also so fitting for Void Kong.
Here, He reveals that, oh yes, Pauline can awaken the long dormant root. Why don't you sing your heart out and grant all our wishes? His corrupt heart is sure to get the lion's share of wealth and exploit all he wants.
Definitely.
And when Pauline refuses the money-grubbing monkey his song request, Void decides, oh, you'll sing? He'll just have to make you squeal first. Void's second boss fight is something of an inversion on his first. He's still running away and hurling projectiles at you, but it's no longer a freeform exploration of your movement options to get around obstacles. DK and Pauline's bond is solidified by Bonanza transformations, super forms for Donkey Kong that do amazing things, from granting him super speed, to slowing down time, to destroying the toughest of terrains, to growing a cloaca. All amazing powers, entirely brought forth through Pauline's singing. Void has limited you not through technology, but through sheer slime and cunning at your desire to not let him achieve his goals. Reduced to your base abilities as Donkey Kong through a gauntlet of tricky platforming. But here's where DK gets to turn the tables on the Primate President.
Okay. I feel like mechanics like this can be pretty hit or miss depending on how it's implemented. Here, I think it makes sense thematically, and it's not like you can't do a lot of the things that you normally do in your normal form, I would presume. So it can be very fun and engaging in a different way from what the normal gameplay was like when you had all those powers. Not sure if this is an apt comparison, but it makes me think of a particular scene in Resident Evil 8. I don't know too much about it, but I do know this one particular thing that was talked about a lot and I thought was a really cool idea and is apparently a favorite section for a lot of people who did play the game. There was this section called like the dollhouse or something like that, where throughout the entirety of the game so far, you had your guns and then you were able to defeat whatever monsters were coming at you, be it zombie or werewolves or really hot dummy mommies. But then when you got put in the dollhouse, all those things kind of got removed from you, and then the game ended up becoming very much a horror game through and through. Now, obviously, it's used for a different effect, where in that game, it's to emphasize the actual, horror aspect of the game. But it's still a similar mix-up of the gameplay that is quite engaging for the player. And then there are other times where I feel like these sort of limitations to the player doing these fights doesn't really enhance the experience. The example I can think of is a particular boss fight in Persona 5 Royal, where, the Persona series, the SMT series, is a turn-based strategy game, a JRPG game, but then during that boss fight, they introduce a timer in which you kind of have to beat in order to make sure that you win, while also, keeping track of all the other things that the boss is trying to do to you. And I think in those instances, adding on that limitation of time to a turn-based game, where it's kind of meant for you to think out your turns and come up with strategies in order to defeat enemies that are much tougher than you are, can maybe be engaging to some people, but I feel like a lot of people aren't really looking for the kind of experience, especially when you purposely buy a turn-based game to not be playing things in real time, right? So I think an example like that is more hit or miss than something like this.
The Forbidden Zone contains one secret technique. Anything you happen to throw will create a crystalline trail behind it. While Void may be in a place void of platforms, trying desperately to projectile spam you to death, now it's up to you to create the terrain to get right up in his face. Void certainly won't make it easy. The sheer amount of stuff he throws in your face is daunting and even more frame rate destroying. And those who relied on Bonanza transformations all game or just plowed through without developing their inherent strengths are going to struggle a lot more than those who believe in base DK like Pauline does.
Bro, no, you got skill issues, damn it. But yeah, the game is essentially asking you here, do you know how to play Donkey Kong Bonanza? And I think that's what bosses are meant to do. Like, have you mastered this particular mechanic in order to defeat me? If you have, then you pass. If you haven't, then it's time to learn. Because the final boss that you're going to fight is going to require you to do all these different mechanics at the same time. And it's that progression of difficulty that is so satisfying in so many video games. Which, going back to my example of the time battle in P5, there wasn't really anything before that suggested something like that would ever happen. It's more of a, we'll throw this at you, and if you fail, then guess you gotta reload and try it again. Which, to be fair, is kind of a thing with the SMT series as a whole, especially in the mainline SMT games. But that's probably why I personally feel kind of dissatisfied with that kind of thing. Like, I didn't struggle with it at all. It's just annoying because it doesn't feel good. There wasn't any lead up to it, and this wasn't really a core mechanic that was introduced that we practiced over the course of the game. It's more like a fun gimmick instead of being a skill check.
But you could beat this bad boss back to solid ground. No matter how many void generators he creates to shield him, how many walls he puts up, how many minions he tries to revive from the depths to desperately stop you, as his theme desperately shouts, "Mine, mine, mine." You're bigger,
awesome.
faster, and stronger than anything he can toss out, can master your movement, and give him a beatdown right on top of the route, where there's nowhere left to run and no one left to save him.
You have no one left, bro. You fired all of them.
But what's a good CEO to do but take credit for the success of others? As soon as DK and Pauline are ready to make their wish, Void shoots one last beam out and directly hits Donkey Kong,
No!
petrifying him instantly. Pauline could, of course, instantly save him if she
But she has to
sang
sing,
for him
yeah.
and let Void get everything he ever wanted. All of Pauline's confidence immediately erodes, having lost her protector and best friend.
Oh, okay. I see where this is going. This is gonna be peak, isn't it? It's so cool when you get to see characters evolve over the course of the series, especially due to your own personal actions. I think this is an aspect that so many people enjoy about something like Baldur's Gate 3, where there are certain moments in the story where if you've interacted with a character enough, then you've made certain choices and you've talked to them and affected their way of thinking, you can kind of leave it up to them to decide what to do. And they may act out of character from what they were introduced as because they've grown. Now, obviously, they're fictional characters, but that progression feels so natural and earned that it becomes a very satisfying moment when you get to see it happen.
But DK's heart is strong, and his pecs do be dancing. And even within a stone prison, he breaks out a jungle beat to encourage his little buddy to sing her heart out. No matter what their circumstances, no matter what Void might wish for, no matter what danger, they can face it together. They're strong because of each other. And that is something truly unbreakable. So let Void charge after the Banandium route. We'll shout as loud as we can the name of the one guy who can tear down everything he can build up. And once DK's broken free, Void is no use for these idiots anymore, so he hurtles himself forward, preparing to wish for the infinite riches he'd always wanted.
Until it's revealed that it's not... Wait, what? No! No! Come on, show us the footage. Your subscription, mine? Oh! No! Holy crap, that's actually hilarious. This wasn't a part of the video. YouTube just messed up right during that section. Are you telling me that Void Kong has control over YouTube? He's been the one behind the scenes this entire time?
But even given his somewhat shameful exit, I really love Void Kong and what he does for the DK franchise. I know I'm not breaking any new ground here. Wow, the video game boss acts as a thematic parallel to the hero with an interesting enough story behind him to get you invested, that gets peppered in and reinforced throughout the game, with actual character dynamics with those around him to make character interactions worth investing in, with a main power that contrasts your main character and tests your abilities in a boss fight that is thematically and mechanically interesting. Why are we bad at making those?
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I feel like I've said all the things that I've said in this video and other videos exploring video game villains, iconic video game villains. But yeah, I wish I could say that more about everything else. It's just always so frustrating to see something that looks like it's going to end up good, and then the final boss fight just kind of being meh, and the villain's motives kind of not being there just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and they kind of contradict themselves too, and not in the kind of way where it's supposed to be written in a way that they contradict themselves, but it's just not good writing. I guess writing good stories is hard.
But with how long the DK franchise as a whole has been dormant, how it's been a series that often lets its environments and mechanics do the talking, how important it was to establish DK as a fully fleshed out character in this game, I think that nailing a dance partner for him to work off of was incredibly important. Through his characterization and dropping just enough breadcrumbs, Void creates the need to chase after him and give him a few dozen smacks to the face. This intrigue toward the banana bandit Cranky Kong is detailing with every layer you find him in, and how those traits can relate to Void, and add questions and theories about the world. Why can Void control these golden crocodilian statue people who seemingly revive from the ground? Did he make the All Mine remote? Or was that something crafted from the Banandium he found?
Oh, wait a
How
minute.
thorough was his corruption through greed? And did the root
got some more
itself
tidbits
create
here
a
to
metamorphosis
expand
within
upon.
him? Will Poppy ever find him again and hire him on as a subordinate just to work him to the bone like she says she will?
Yeah!
These are questions and theories and bits of imagination encouraged directly by the game. And I think that the more characters we create in a world that makes us want to wonder about and connect with it, the more beautiful that world is and the more attached we become. Even if it's a silly monkey game.
I mean, yeah, this is a starting point, right? These things can be further expanded upon in the future, but you gotta introduce them first. And for what we've seen, they have a pretty good baseline to work off of now.
And also, I think he's really fun. This is a character made for me to voice. If you need him voiced for whatever fan project, I will do that for free. This is me. Void Kong was stated to have survived his final showdown. Hey, Peer from the future, guess what? Bonanza DLC dropped right as we were finishing this episode. So, yeah, actually, Void is just here
back.
now on DK Island. He's your wacky neighbor who scams you into giving him money. That's
This
great.
guy.
Love that for him. More, please. And I sincerely hope that we end up seeing more of the little guy. There's so much to work with gameplay scenarios and character interactions that can grow from it. And that's exciting! I'm excited for Donkey Kong lore again. Void Kong takes a wealth of ideas and mechanics and makes them his own. And to contrast Donkey Kong's newfound growth and kindness, perfectly shows how to design for spoil.
What I was most surprised about from this video was the fact that it's been so long since we've done anything with DK. Like, I don't know anything about the guy, but I always felt like he's been a pretty popular character, and he's appeared in so many other games, kind of like one of the faces of Nintendo, and yet it's taken us this long to actually do anything with him? That's insane to me. Regardless though, I'm glad that after all this time, we do have a pretty solid basis for things to be expanded upon. We're starting to see a lot of really positive signs from the way the story is written, similar to so many other popular series and their villains and just the way their stories go, that can be built upon in many different ways depending on where they want to take the series. I'm just happy for the DK fans out there that they finally got what seems to be a pretty good game, and I hope this trend continues for them in the future. But anyways, dudes, that's gonna do it for me today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.